Today we're going to do 3 things for our favorite army guy or girl. The 3 things we're going to do today are, we're going to sew on the name to this pair of pants. We're going to change the stitching because you can't have black stitching. You need to have camo stitching. And we're going to replace this. This is on crooked. It's got black stitching. The trick is it's over some buttonholes and you has to be able to button. And I'm actually not quite sure right now how I'm going to do that, but we'll figure it out. So the key is matching thread. We cannot not match. This looks too, oh, this might be okay, but this is upholstery thread and it's going to show up, but this is a possibility. This one is one I just ordered and this one's okay. That one might be all right. But I want to look for a green that's just a teeny bit brownish. That's too dark. I know it before I even pick it up. Okay, I asked him where to sew this on, and he said I could put it over that seam stitching. But it's got to be centered, and it's got to be matching thread. And since this was put on previously, I need to be on top of the holes that have already been made. Now, when I put on a nameplate or anything, I start at the bottom because that is the critical line. If you start up here and get to the end and realize you're off a little bit, you're taking it out and doing it again. So let's start at the bottom. It's also critical that, see underneath, you've got these folds. You can't have them sticking out. Make sure they're tucked under. Everything's tucked under. And we're going to do this bottom first. And I want to make sure this thread, yeah, that thread looks really good. Okay, abort. Look what Hope's doing. So she's pushing off of this seam and we're going crooked, and that's not acceptable. Okay, let's start back here again. In order to stop that from happening, I might put a pin in it right here. Let's see how we do. Threads pulled to the back side. We're just going to continue from where we stopped. Now Hope, I need to give her a talking to because that was not acceptable. Don't slide off that seam, and we might have to sew her over the tip of that. We'll just pull her back. There we go. Okay, yeah, we're not bleeding. It just hurt. It's okay. So now we're going to look to make sure we're the same distance. I think that looks good. And I'm going to sew right over the top of what I did at the very beginning, so I don't have to backstitch and I know that's not coming out. Let's admire our work and make sure everything looks good. I think that looks good. Okay, it's time to redo this, and I hate to say anything bad about any other seamstress, but this is ridiculous. This is crooked. You can see the lines in the uniform and how this line is completely sideways. I'm going to show you how to do this accurately and better, but first we have to take all this off. Okay, we're placing this on the uniform. Since it was already on here before, this is not going to be difficult. And since the other people that have taken them off have made tiny little holes, we have to get this right on top of where the holes were. And it actually looks crooked if we cover all the holes. And now, one thing that's going to help us, you can see in this army fabric, there are little lines. And that is going to help us put this on. But right now, I'm concerned about this hole. All of my other holes are covered. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to put a little piece of fabric on the back with stitch witchery. When I get a little piece of fabric for a hole, I'm going to cut sideways because I don't want it to fray. And I'm going to cut with pinking shears because I don't want it to fray. My whole purpose is not to fray, and I want a little tiny piece. Like that, because I want it to go right. I want it to be approximately the size of my stitch witchery so that it will just adhere to the hole in the back and not get bigger. So we're going to do this. Make sure I'm fixing the right hole, because there's 4 holes on the back of this. I'm putting the Stitch Witchery and that there, and then I'm going to put a bunch of heat and steam on that to get it to stay. Look at that. That's very nice. It's not going to fray. It is stuck. And it's not going to get bigger. So we're just going to have it show just a little bit so it's straight. But I know it's not going to get bigger. Here's my hole that I put Stitch Witchery on it in the back. I can still see that. In order to get it so I can't see it, I'm going to do a very wide and tight zigzag over it with matching thread as much as I can so that it's not seen. Let's see how I do. It's not tight enough. It's better. Oh, that's better. See, all my stress is kind of going right now because I know my work is going to be the best I can do. Also secures that patch into place, off a zigzag, down to stitch. See, that does look better. The last one I did started at the bottom because there was a pocket seam that it had to be lined up with. This one I'm starting at the top. I don't think it matters actually where I start because I'm not lining it up against anything that's a hard, you must line this up against a pocket. This is just lined up with the little lines in the fabric. There we go. Let's admire our work. I think that looks good. It's a little bit tricky to put the rank on this shirt. It needs to be exactly 2 inches by 2 inches. And it needs to be sewn on so that you can button it. So this has to be open on the top here. I have this in the perfect place. On the outside, I'm going to sew down this side and over in an L. And then we're going to have to take it out of the machine so that we don't sew all through the layers where he's going to do his button. We have to make sure we're lined up there perfectly and here perfectly. It just has to be perfect. On the other ones, I didn't backstitch. I just went around in a circle and sewed right on top of what I already did. But this, I'm just going to sew down this line and over and then stop. I just want to get right exactly in that corner. Oh, this thread might be too dark. Abort.
Oh, are you stitching it?
Ah!
Oh no!
Abort! See how I got it kind of tucked under? I'm not going to sew on it. I'm just going to go around it, and then when I get to the top, I'm going to have to tuck it again. I can't. I'm just going to bring that almost all the way out of the way. It's going to feel very wonky. Gotta get it out of the way, all the way. I can feel where that is. Let's see how we did. Oh, we did good. See how close we got, but we didn't go in on that seam. Let's admire our work all the way around. Is it even? Is it wonky? here are the two name and insignia things that I did today. We did a name right here. This is on the back of the pants, back of the right pocket. And then we did a rank right here, right along the inside, and we left it open so he can put do the button hole right there. All right, so make sure you have matching thread. The thread that we had to match over here is not the thread we matched in over here. Matching thread is key, and taking the time to be perfect on your corners and making sure it's lined up.